here to talk about Amazing Race Canada Season 2, Episode 8.
Is it 8?
It's 8.
Alrighty,
It's 8.
Okay,
And it was a very, it was an interesting episode.
it was fun.
There were some touching moments. There was some surprising moments.
Quite surprising.
They're very surprising.
They leave from Normandy and they go to
Normandy.
Paris. So they must find Arc de Triomphe, which is that big giant thing in the middle of the city.
You can't miss it.
No.
If you're going to Paris and you miss the Arc de Triomphe, you've obviously gone to the wrong Paris.
Yeah.
You're in Texas.
Yeah.
So
Texas, yeah.
the next clue box takes them to
Place du Canada.
Place du Canada.
Du.
Not Place de Canada.
Mickey and Pete. Place
So Mickey and Pete end up outside of Paris. Why go to Paris if you're going to leave Paris? Would have been my first clue right there.
Well, the smell of Europe. They smell of Europe in Paris a lot. That's bad. It's
The detour.
And it's the haute couture and plate du jour. And
That's right.
plate du jour is the way to go.
Both of them are easy. I mean,
Well, I would have taken
I've done
plate du
some.
jour.
I've done some dress design when I was doing some fashion studies.
There you go.
Dress design is easy enough to do. Pinning it together, I mean, you may have to get it exact, so it might be a little more tedious. But yeah, I agree. Plate du jour is obviously the easier thing. You only needed 3 items.
Three
from
items.
3 different cafes.
And it
for
wasn't
one
like
table.
something you croque monsieur. I mean, that's easy. Those things are easy. So the Olympians get that fast.
The Olympians had no problem with that. Got that done and they're out.
They're done to the U-turn and they U-turn nobody.
And they get to the U-turn, which was, I forget the name of the place, Centre Pompidou.
Pompidou, which is a very nice place.
Yes, and they get to the U-turn board, and they're going to play an above board, very even, very like fair race, and they're not going to U-turn anybody. And okay, I think that's a nice thing to say and everything, but you're in the front. You're the first team. You really have no reason to U-turn anybody because nobody's catching up to you.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a given they weren't going to use it.
Yeah, but
I didn't think they would.
the fact calling it unfair and unsportsmanlike to use a U-turn.
It's part of the game.
Part of the game. I mean, if
We
you
do U-turn people.
Oh,
if
yeah.
we were first,
if
we'd
you're
have
first,
probably U-turned
Natalie and
somebody.
Megan would be U-turn instantly.
Exactly.
I mean, but it's part of the game. You're not like punching someone in the head. You're not knocking over his Mentos. That's unsportsmanlike.
That
and
would have
fair.
been unsportsmanlike.
Using something that's
trips into the board and
a tough team. Elaine and Audrey.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing about that is that when they were waiting for the train to Paris, Elaine and Audrey approached Pierre Michel, and they're like, "Oh, let's form an alliance, a Quebecois alliance, and make sure that we don't U-turn each other." And the boys are like, "Oh yeah, sounds like a great idea." And then they show them on the train like 10 minutes later. It's like, "So who are we going to U-turn?" Elaine and Audrey. I'm like, that's playing the game.
Suki and Jude are coming up the U-turn. We're U-turning whoever's behind us.
They U-turned Ryan and Rob.
Which was also a good move. Whoever's behind you, U-turn them.
You do because it gives you that extra 15, 20 minutes you need to stay ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. Mickey and Pete finally get back and they get to the U-turn board and it's like, hey, nobody U-turned us. Well, that's primarily because the guys in the first group figured you were already ahead of them, and the guys in the last group figured you were already ahead of them.
I think they may have forgotten they existed.
They kind of just fell off the radar. Which now, speed bump for Ryan and Rob was actually fairly simple. I mean, learn the accordion and play Au clair de la lune.
Yeah, I think the task in this.
They did it twice, right?
Yeah,
I thought it was
twice
two,
together.
3 times.
Yeah.
The first time was kind of bad, but even the second time wasn't great. But they got it,
Yeah.
and they moved on.
I
It was
think
quick.
the tasks were quite simple in this part to lead up to the Mentos.
The Mentos
Which
challenge,
was
which was
really-
the roadblock. So there's some street artist, I forget his name, but he's made this Mentos collage, and you have to copy it with Mentos. Now I don't think his is made with Mentos, I don't know, but it's tiny little dots. So you have to copy it with Mentos, and she sets hers all up. I didn't see the time that it took for Natalie to do it. Oh yeah,
Over
definitely
2.5.
this would have been mine.
Over
Yeah.
2.5 hours for hers. This is
Yeah,
a
and it would have taken a long time to do it. It's like putting together a puzzle, but it takes a lot of time because there's a lot of pieces. 1,400 pieces?
Yes, take time.
That's a lot of time. Natalie figures she's got it after about 2.5 hours, and she calls for a check, but she's wrong. She's like, what did I do wrong? And it looks the same. It looks the same. She's looking, and she goes back. She looks again. She's flipped oranges for yellows, or the other way around. Just in one section. So she goes and flips them all back, calls her a check again, and they're out.
Yeah.
No problem. Anyway, find the mat, find John. Hello,
Yay.
team number 1 again. That's
Yay.
6 wins in 8 legs.
I'm getting bored of it.
Well, I'm not bored of it, but I mean they're a strong team.
They're a
They do
strong
make
team.
mistakes, and they will, probably get cocky and screw up again. it could happen. They may win the whole thing. Don't know, but they're definitely. I see them as definitely getting to the bottom three.
Well, they
or the top
are
three.
the favorites to
Yeah,
win.
they're
So.
the favorites to win.
Okay.
So Pierre and Michel arrive. They start. Michel starts doing his Mentos challenge.
He's trying to get it done before Elaine and Audrey show up, because then
he's race. Wrong. Race. Wrong. Race. Wrong.
hey, Elaine and Audrey show
Elaine
up.
and Audrey show
After
up.
Suki and Ginger showed up and started working, and Elaine and Audrey show up, and it's like, hey.
Yeah,
And then Ryan and Rob show up, and
Ryan and Rob show up.
Ginger's like, hey, buddy.
And Mickey and Pete had showed up.
Yeah,
So
showed
everybody's
up.
there.
They're all stuck there.
And Suki's working on it. Suki's like, bang, bang, bang. She's figured it out. As
She
we
gets
said,
it out.
she's counted it out. She's put down the pieces. They're done. They're off. About the same amount of time as the Olympians, around two
Pretty
and a half
quickly.
hours,
So
something
they,
like that.
They got a second.
So they're second. That's actually really good for them. Proud of them.
Very
It's
good.
still kind of annoying once in a while, but they're enjoying the race. They're having fun,
Well,
and they're playing the game.
I would like to see them win. They're the underdogs.
Yeah.
They're having fun. They're
Yeah,
a bunch of kids from nowhere.
I'd have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Pete and Audrey
Are going-
are both working, and they both call for checks, and they're both wrong.
And
But,
Pete says, I see.
Audrey saw
Audrey?
saw a couple of things on Pete's that were wrong, and Pete's like, she says, if you find what's wrong on mine, I'll tell you the ones that I can see wrong in yours. So Pete's like, wait a sec. Oh, you've messed up over here. And she's like, oh, great. Well, you messed up over here.
That's very smart.
That's very smart. You're working together. You can both see where your other person's error is, help them fix it, and move on. So Pete fixes it.
Elaine was so happy. He's like, see you later, Pierre and Michelle.
Yeah.
Nice knowing you.
Elaine was ecstatic.
That's-
So now it's down to Michelle and Rob.
But then they get Elaine and Audrey get fourth, and they show up
They show up at the
and
mat.
he proposes to her.
He does. It was
Very
a
nice.
very touching moment.
Very
He's been
touching and
carrying
sweet.
that ring around since the race began. I'm,
Trying to hide it somewhere.
trying to hide it. Really glad he hasn't lost it. Because imagine he goes to do that and he's lost the ring. We're
choice.
waiting for the invite. We probably won't attend. But if you invite us, we might. You never know.
I'll show up.
Yeah, we'll show up.
Good French
Okay, so
Canadian
feel
wedding.
free to invite us and we'll come.
I'll bring tortillere.
There you go. I'll
That's
bring
more of-
me.
That's more of a Christmas thing,
I'll bring
but
Wayne.
whatever.
Finally, Rob gets it.
Rob gets it.
He and Ryan are out of there, and Michelle is like, oh, crap.
In French.
In French. Yeah.
And
And
married them.
Michelle have been sent packing.
That was a surprise.
It was a surprise. I really expected them to be in the final three.
So did I.
Yeah. So next week,
Next week,
flying
off.
home to Canada,
Montreal.
heading to Montreal. Apparently doing a racing task.
Ooh,
That looks like fun.
loads of fun.
Something with cheesies. I don't know what.
Did they cheese? Did they
Is
do
it cheese or cheesies? I missed
cheese?
that.
Did they do cheese last year? Did they do cheese? I'm going like, did they do cheese?
Did do cheese.
I think they
somewhere
did cheese
yeah.
last year in the Maritimes. They had to taste this cheese and,
And
see
then,
if
and
it
then some
matches.
nude modeling,
Yeah.
which
Was
you know,
that-
we've seen in
Amazing Race Australia,
Amazing
which
Race
is fine.
Australia.
It's still a good task.
it's a good task. A lot of people really have a problem taking off their clothes.
I have no problem. For the race, sure.
Sure.
Draw my body.
If you really want to see us naked, we're good for that.
Sure. Ready?
Yeah, but not now.
No.
And
Yeah.
see you next week.
See you next week.
All right.
Bye. So all the Easter eggs in Guardians of the Galaxy. So there's no.
No, we're not doing that. That's a totally different review.
I have no idea what that is.